I'll just show off my great pants while we're waiting. Because when you can't have a mermaid tail, you have to at least have mermaid pants, complete with fins. Hello, thank you for coming. Come on in. I'm loving everyone's outfits. Everyone looks fantastic. Are you gonna help me, bud? Well, shalom, my name is Raina, and I'm sorry I have a lot of these puns. Welcome to Mermaiding 101. I have been a professional mermaid based out of Halifax for 16 years and getting to travel around parts of the States, parts of Canada, a little bit of Mexico and places like that. That's so not gonna fly, buddy. I'm also a mom, as you can see. And I'm really excited to be here at Animaritime talking about mermaiding. It's my passion. I love sharing it with people. I love to enable people to be able to do it. If you've got a little angel and devil on your shoulder, I'm the devil being like, by the tail, who's trying to get you into it. I don't sell tails, but I do know a lot about them, so I'll be able to talk to you about them. I've brought some things to show you, and I'm basically just gonna give you sort of like a quick overview of the industry and the history as a whole, and spice it up with some of my own stories. This is my teeny tiny tank. Whoa, no, I lost power. Test. Hi. So yeah, that's me in my teeny tiny tank. If you go to the States, mermaid tank shows are really popular, but you see them a lot at Ren festivals that are ongoing for like a month or two. Not something we have a whole lot of here in Canada, and our season is so small. So it's really difficult for me to do a tank show where I'm setting it up and not having to tear it down. So having a little tank is the best option for us, and we borrow this tank from Dalhousie University. I've kind of got like a mermaid deal going on with them where I swim in their aquarium for them and they lend me a fish tank. So I kind of call it affectionately the bathtub tank because it's about the size of a bathtub. But this is just sort of an example of the type of work that merfolk do. And a friend sent me this right before I came here, a little bit of local history. That's Rocket Richard there with the Mermaid in 1950s as part of the Lobster Fest. So I thought this was really cool because one of the things I want to tell you about is how this profession has actually existed for over 100 years. And it's really cool for me to see archival photos, and I've seen a lot of American ones in warmer states like Florida, places like that, but not a whole lot of historical mermaid performers in Canada. So I did a little digging, and this lady is actually, she's from Newfoundland, and she came over to New Brunswick in order to be the mermaid for this festival. And kind of like a rudimentary costume for what we had back then to work with. They didn't have the kind of stuff we have now. But I just think it's so cool that she's here in New Brunswick being a mermaid over 50 years ago. So mermaiding actually, it's been around at least 100 years, and that is the verb that we use for it, mermaiding, to mermaid, to be a mermaid. And it all got started with this woman who really super inspired me, and she's part of the reason I became a professional mermaid. Her name was Annette Kellerman. She lived in the 1880s until about 1975, and this woman was something else. You can thank her for the modern day bathing suit, because until that point women had to swim and go to the beach very modestly in full, basically ball gowns. I'm not even talking like the cute little romper dresses, I mean like neck to ankle gowns. So of course women did not want to swim because they would drown. And she was actually arrested for wearing the modern day bathing suit that she invented, which would kind of be on par, if you can visualize, like from the 50s era, Marilyn Monroe wearing like this cute little one piece. That's what she wore, and she went to court over it, and she challenged over it, and she actually won. And the judge gave her the compromise that basically if she wore pantyhose with the thing, she could wear the bathing suit. So she had some special tights that she'd made and worn with her bathing suit. And Annette got her start very similar to me. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey with chronic illness and chronic pain and how that sort of shaped my life. And Annette got into swimming because she'd had rickets as a child, which impacted her legs and caused her chronic pain. And her doctor encouraged her to swim as a way to cope with it, and then it turns out she's really good. Like, she was really, really good at swimming. She started setting and beating records and even beating men. And back 100 years ago, that was not a thing women did. So it was really cool. And she became this mermaid performer for movies. She started doing this for movies, and she filmed in the first film that ever cost $1 million to make. And later on, when she was older, Esther Williams, who is a famous diving and swim performer that a lot of people know, she went on to portray Annette in a film called $1 Million Mermaid. It's a great movie, but it's very dated. So if you decide to look it up, just be careful. So Annette, she made these tales, she would do these big feats, she'd be swimming underwater, they'd be filming her through glass. She wrote the first fitness book to ever exist. She advised the president at the time on how to cope with his leg that had polio. And her whole thing was just trying to empower women in physical fitness, to get them swimming, to get them moving, to get them active, and to show them that they could do those things. So I love her so much, I actually have a tattoo of her wearing her iconic bathing suit on my arm. And she's sort of instrumental in how I got started, because I looked at her and thought, wow, if she could do this 100 years ago, what is my excuse? I could surely make this work. So here's just a few pictures of her. So that is her bathing suit that she wore, and originally it didn't have the leggings, and she was arrested for wearing it. And Annette's films were all done through MGM, and their studio had a fire in the mid-1900s. And so a lot of the footage and a lot of her images and things have been lost, but there are a few things up on YouTube. I got to be in a documentary a few years ago, which we'll talk about later, and we were able to license some of the clips as well, so that's pretty cool. And there she is in one of her mermaid tales. She starred in a film called Neptune's Daughter, where she taught all of the women in it to be mermaids with her, and they swam with crocodiles and all kinds of crazy critters. So there probably were people in mermaid costumes doing kind of, roadside attraction things, but she was kind of the first thing that was really documented. And then another sort of pioneering group that we have are Wachee, and this is a really special spring in Florida. It's super, super, super deep. And this retired Navy frogman came in the 20s, and he built a theater inside this spring. So we've been to it, and it's basically, if you could imagine walking into this room, and instead of having this in front of you, you're looking through glass into the side of a natural spring. So all the animals and life that would be in there, it's like an aquarium, except you're the aquarium and you're looking out. So he developed this system of breathing off an air hose of compressed air, and they made these costumes, and these women and some men would go down in these costumes, and they'd do all these crazy tricks, and they'd have their air hose, and they'd kind of spin it around and make bubbles and stuff. And this was huge, it was famous, like Elvis went there, and all the celebrities of the time would go there, and it still exists today. So you can still go to Wachee and see mermaid shows. And we went a few years ago, and one of my favorite things about it was that they have some of the retired mermaids who performed in the 50s and 60s come in and do shows. So I'm watching women in their 70s and 80s do phenomenal underwater stunts and thinking, oh, I hope that I can be like that. I hope I can be like that. So that's my goal, is to keep swimming like this so that I can do that as well one day. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how I got started. And I have several chronic illnesses, and it took me a while to figure out what they were. And in my early 20s, I didn't know. I just knew that I was in pain all the time, I was tired all the time, I was sick all the time. And I was trying to go to university. I was the first person in my family to go to university. I felt a lot of pressure to not just stop and take a break. I was trying to live up to this expectation. And I was really struggling to cope with it. I was getting really bad depression because I thought, like, I'm 20 and I can't do anything. Why can't I do what everyone else does? And I was watching TV one time. I was living with my aunt, and the movie Splash came on. It's this movie from the 80s. It stars Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, and it was Tom Hanks before he got famous. And John Candy was in it, and Eugene Levy, and it's a hysterical, very 80s movie, very 80s. But the thing that got me about it was Daryl Hannah, the actress, was swimming around in this tail, and I thought, that's not CGI, that's from the 80s, like that has to be a costume. Somebody made that. So I went down the rabbit hole trying to learn about how they made splash, and I found the artists who made the tails, and I did some research, and I found a handful of women who were doing this, and this is me like 16 years ago. They were doing this, actually this is 18 years ago now, and they were doing this as like a job. So there was like a woman in Australia, and there was a woman in LA, and they just had like costumes that they made, and they would do little shows and whatever, and I thought, dang, they look so strong, they look so beautiful, they look so agile, I want to be like that. And I wasn't thinking I want to do it as a job or I want to be on the internet. I just wanted to feel like them for a day. So I looked and looked and looked to try to find a mermaid tail. And nowadays you can literally buy them on Amazon, eBay. You might have a friend who knows how to make them. You could not find anything back then. It was totally quiet. And I found this one person who would make me one out of stretch vinyl, and it looked like a tablecloth when I got it. And it didn't even have the right kind of fin in it because I couldn't get the proper fin in Canada to fit it, so I had to just put 2 regular swim fins in it. And my husband took me out for this swim where you see this picture here, and I was really annoyed the whole time thinking that I must look stupid, I feel stupid, I wasn't even a good swimmer, like what was I thinking? But then when I got out and I saw myself in the pictures, I was like, wow, okay, wait a second, I do kind of look like a mermaid. This is really cool, like maybe this is something I could work towards. So that's what I used it as in the beginning, was a way to work towards my goals, going through physiotherapy, just trying to advocate for myself with my health and figure out if this was something I could do. Was not expecting it to take off. It was this thing I did on the side as a hobby here and there, and I would get a little bit of money and I would reinvest in a better tail. And as the industry started to grow, we would see more and more artists who made better and better tails. And so every couple of years I was able to go up and up. And then 16 years ago, I did my first gig, and I did that while in university, and it was great. Again, just kind of thought this is a thing on the side I'm gonna do. I did my first degree in child development, my second degree in education. So through both of these degrees, I would kind of do my class projects through my mermaid work, like demonstrating how I could work with kids, how I could educate about the ocean, like all these cool things. And then 10 years ago, I won a $10,000 business grant, which was a lot of money back then. It doesn't really feel like a lot right now, but it was a lot back then. And with that, I was able to buy more tails and hire more people. But I had graduated with my teaching degree in 2012, and there had been no work. And just nothing for teachers in Nova Scotia. And I went to career counseling, and the career counselor kept saying to me, like, why aren't you trying this mermaid thing? Like, why don't you see if you can do that? And I was like, I didn't go to school and got 2 degrees to be a mermaid. Like, I'm not gonna be a mermaid. Plus, I have no business experience. This is something I just do for fun on the side. But she hooked me up with business mentoring, and I got into some programs, and then I won that $10,000 grant, and before you know it, it just totally took off. So it was definitely, this for me was, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and that's what this was. Like, I was able to turn this into the successful career because I had nothing else. But because I had this great background, even though I did these degrees and I wasn't able to use them in the teaching field, I was able to teach as a mermaid. And I'm gonna get into the word mermaid and what it means and how it kind of was represented a bit